Good morning, everybody. My name's James, and for the benefit of those listening back to the audio, you're listening to Ask James, my regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. I hope you got your coffees or teas at the ready. For those on the other side of the world, maybe you got a cold beer in your hand. As I said, it's just gone 8 a.m. UK time on Wednesday, August 27th. Why is the stream so bloody early? Well, I've got to be back in court for jury service at 10:30. So I think the best thing to do would be do this early rather than necessarily wait for something that become very late evening. Nothing specific to announce. Few updates from obviously Carabao Cup. Few Premier League teams went out last night. Sunderland, Leeds, West Ham and Bournemouth. Other than that, let's get into your questions. I'll answer them as normal in order of submission. I'll go up to a maximum latest of 9 a.m. I cannot go any later than that today. Hopefully, because it's early, I should be able to hopefully answer everybody's questions. Jiggins says, morning, James. Strand Larson and Harry Wilson owner here. What's the chance they both play at the weekend? Wilson got benched for Sessegnon, and Jurgen Strand Larson has the links to Newcastle. Cheers. I guess it's kind of how long is a piece of string with Larson at the moment. If he goes to Newcastle, I mean, it's not to say he wouldn't. If it got done today or tomorrow, it's not to say wouldn't necessarily start for Newcastle at the weekend. Different one, right? Because Newcastle's need is fairly urgent. Andy Gordon's suspension means, as it would stand, Will Asula would probably start at the weekend. Obviously scored against Liverpool. He could, in theory, go straight in. He obviously has had a proper pre-season, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake, Isak did unbelievably sign for Liverpool magically tomorrow. Isak's not going to start against Arsenal, right? It's just no pre-season. Strand Larson's had a full pre-season. There's every chance he would maybe even play. If he's still at Wolves, then there's no reason to think he wouldn't play against Everton at the weekend. He was used last night as a substitute, scored twice, 2 good finishes. The winning headed goal was a brilliant goal. Good limbs on the home end at Wolves for that goal last night. So I guess the concern with Larson, what we can't say is a deal gets agreed with Newcastle Friday night, for example. He ain't playing for nobody, is he? So Friday's like your real kind of danger day from that perspective. If it's today, tomorrow, he could play for Newcastle. If he doesn't move, he'll play for Wolves. I don't see any reason why not. On Harry Wilson, that's possibly dependent on Fulham's system, right? So I spoke about this a lot on the Game Review podcast yesterday. And for me, they were much better when he came on. He gave them a little bit of energy and a bit of vibrancy. And simultaneously, they changed the system back to a 4 at the back, which I said I didn't like the way Fulham set up on Sunday personally. So if they go with back 4, he plays. If it's a back 3, he doesn't. So I'd be quite content at the moment, Jiggins. See, Marco Silva might well get pushed on the system again. Not that he's going to outright say ahead of a trip to Chelsea what system he's going to play. But Wilson will be involved. I see no reason at this moment why Larson wouldn't be involved either. Ishan Hall says, I'm on wildcard 6, but finding it weird starting with triple Arsenal away to Newcastle. Both Villa and Arsenal have a good fixture in 7, so it makes it harder to go no one of Gyökeres Watkins' thoughts. So, thoughts on that would be, like, I've spoken about this a few times on a few various kind of chip strategy pieces, that there's like entry points, right? It's like City 6, Arsenal 7, and then probably back for Chelsea 9, subject to, if not, the Forest are struggling for whatever reason, then Chelsea probably 8. So City 6, Arsenal 7, Chelsea 9. So if you're going in 6, you want to set up for those good runs, including Arsenal, and then maybe get to Chelsea afterwards, right? So, of course, if you wildcard in 6, yeah, you're going to be looking at a lot of Arsenal way to Newcastle. Feels fairly obvious. I suspect you probably want to go 6, and the main reason for that is Manchester City. So is there a different way of doing this where you go, right, I'm going to get a few City in to dead end that to 6, and then wildcard in 7? I don't like 6 as a wildcard week, personally. I think it should be a little bit later than that, or the one I prefer, as said several times over, target for me is game week 13. So I think that's like a natural consequence of 6, is you'll end up with that. There's a few other weeks like that, like game week 12 is another one where you go early and it's like, oh, Chelsea and Arsenal are still playing each other in 13. Like, it doesn't feel right. And I think 6 is a consequence of that as well. But yeah, look, Arsenal assets can be any game, particularly the defensive ones. James McDonough says, 1 free transfer going into game week 3 and own Palmer, Rutter, Fulkrug, Wirtz, Goodmanson, Keenan, Dewsbury, Hall. Use the free transfer, take a hit. Others I own: Haaland, Watkins, Gakpo, Nico Williams, Diouf, Tarkowski, Porro. I'm not going to remember all of that. So let's focus on the problems. So Palmer, we don't know yet. I own Cole Palmer, and I'm probably going to make a decision later today in terms of what I'm going to do. One thought process for me is just to hold and gather the information of the transfer window closing, etc. His injury, it sounds like, is not as bad as first feared, to the extent he could even be involved at the weekend, but is obviously very doubtful. If he got any minutes, he would be a captain consideration for me in game week 4, and I have to factor that in. Ismail Assar is probably the one that I'm looking at as the most likely option for me if I sell. So Palmer is subject to the news. Rutter, we think, was a minor problem, kept him out of the weekend. I think he will come back in if he's available. Fulkrug, we've said probably the information is more important. So we could be in a position this time next week with the transfer windows closed. Rodrigo Muniz is still at Fulham. They got a couple of great fixtures. You can make a downgrade. That's a possibility. So information more important. Wirtz is another player I own. Really concerned. And you're going to hear on Clash of Correspondence tomorrow Dan Lord's real kind of concern about Wirtz as a fantasy asset. Not convinced at all, and neither am I. But I also see, as I said yesterday on the pod, 2 home games coming up and an away game with Burnley sandwiched by that. So not in a panic state to feel like I've got to move that in the immediate at all. Goodmanson is 4.0 defender. That's fine. It's no issue whatsoever, mate. Just leave it be wherever it is. Keenan Dewsbury Hall. Part of me thinking at the weekend is, well, if I didn't sell Palmer, Dewsbury Hall's my first sub. Is it the worst thing in the world for him to come in for Wolves? So break down these issues individually. The big one there is the Palmer fitness, right? The rest, probably just leave be at the moment. Okay? That's how I'd feel about it. I spoke quite a bit towards the end of the podcast yesterday, which I recommend having a listen to, about just, if we can, just all just calm down a little bit. It's been a tough start for everybody, right? So if you feel like you're alone in that, you're not. Johan Montin says, morning, James. Early benching dilemma, assuming all healthy. Play one of Rutter, Sarr, and Bowen. That's Pat Matter, Sarr, sorry. Having double Forest defence against Bowen makes me lean towards one of the other two. My answer on that would be to play Bowen, despite him wanting to get in the crowd and have a row with some West Ham fans last night. Look, Jared Bowen's very passionate about what's happening at West Ham. He's the captain. He feels part responsible for what's happening at the moment. I think ultimately, I've discussed this on a few other bits as well. We possibly need to adjust our mindset a little bit. So I completely understand the all-in strategy of I've got a defender from one team, an attacker from the other. But we have to look at that a little bit differently now. Particularly with someone like Murillo, who hasn't yet, but obviously is capable of picking up DEFCONs. If I said to you now, Bowen scores and Murillo picks up DEFCON, you'd snatch my hand off for that. And I've got those 2 players, and my full intention at the moment is just to play both. Jack and Entwistle says, morning, James. Hope Court goes okay. I bench cover for Palmer in Agbadu and John Arias. Happy to keep if it's 1 game missed, but not 2, assuming I should just wait for the press on Friday to decide. You probably won't need to wait till Friday. I think the consciousness that I have is having a little look at live FPL specifically for Palmer last night. It does look like he could fall in price tonight. Might be tomorrow, probably not going to make it till Friday. But we kind of had a little bit of update. I name-checked Simon Phillips yesterday on the podcast. He was saying his fear was the Palmer would miss a month. It was him that put the message out again yesterday saying it's not as bad as they're fearing. He could even make Saturday. So, yeah, ultimately, how gutted are you if you sell when he's available? That said, the flip of the problem is, break it down, just think about it logically. Enzo Maresca was clear and said that Palmer played with the problem going into the Crystal Palace game. So it's obviously bothering him. It's probably something he's going to have to sort out at some point, either through getting probably a little bit of minor surgery done or rest. It might be rest will just cure the problem. So my instincts at the moment would be that Palmer probably doesn't play this weekend. In terms of your cover, like Agbadu at home to Everton for a week, yeah. It's kind of how I'm looking at with Dewsbury Hall from the same fixture. It's not ideal, but if it's just a week, it's possibly going to save me a transfer because I know on my path, I'll want Palmer back for 9. Definitely at the latest. Whereas I think for those who say, like your person before was looking at sort of wild carding in 6, easier sell. deal, right? You're dealing with short-termism, and you're looking at a period where, okay, so Palmer's got Fulham at home, Brentford away, Man United away, and he's not fully fit. Sell. So it's circumstantial depending on where you're at. Tree Rodder says, hi James, Palmer to Cunha already have Sarr. I'm going to assume that's Ishmaela. Some say he's a 1 week punt, but he could be a long-term hold, I think. He could. Like Cunha, I'd recommend listening back to what I discussed about him on the podcast yesterday. Little concern about what we've seen on the IF in the 2 games is encouraging. Like, actually, if you've watched the 2 United games, it's pretty mad that he's not scored in either game, considering Raya's brilliant save in the first game and his early chances in the game on Sunday at Fulham. But what's the consequence of Sesko coming in the team is something we don't know. Therefore, I think that you probably can't buy with a long-term vision at the moment. Could be that it becomes it, I agree with you, but we couldn't buy with confidence that it's going to be a long-term hold, I think, at this stage. I'm influenced that I've got Fernandes there, and I don't want to, it's easy to look at 3 and go, for the immediate week, I should buy a Manchester United player. Completely agree with that. But then I have to look at those 2 players playing against Manchester City and Chelsea afterwards. Not sure I want to do that. Now, if you don't have any Manchester United coverage, I'm going to say go for it, mate. Aaron Hill says, hi, James. You don't seem sold on Gyökeres on the pod. Worth a -4 to get on Mateta early or wait. Liverpool look leaky, but selling him this game week seems better than selling him before Nottingham Forest at home next week. Thanks. Yeah, wouldn't jump that, mate. Like, I'm not convinced on what I saw of him in terms of, I think his first goal looked awkward. And I think just ultimately, I think better defenders would have sorted that out and the goal wouldn't have happened. That's my take, okay? Just on that one isolated incident. Took the penalty well. He obviously gives Arsenal a focal point. Liverpool have looked a bit flaky defensively. I wouldn't be rushing to move that on. I totally get your point about, doesn't feel as great selling in 4, but Forest are pretty strong defensively. That's probably like a will for you to want to get Mateta against Sunderland. And then they've got West Ham afterwards. But then Mateta's got Liverpool as well. So I think, look, if you're on Gyökeres at the moment, as you'll hear from Adam on COTC tomorrow, there's no reason at all to think that he wouldn't play and Arsenal try anything different. Havertz not available. So I'd be leaving that at the moment. Certainly wouldn't be taking a -4 for it. I don't think I'd do it for 3, Aaron. FPL Kratos says, hi, James. Hope you're well. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Bumo versus Cunha. I have a preference for Bumo with him having some set pieces and his delivery caused Fulham big issues last weekend. That's fine. If you've got a preference for Bumo, I don't mind that. It would be Cunha for me from the 2. Discussed that quite a bit on yesterday's pod, mate. Dan Rahili says, morning, James. Hope you're well, mate. Genuine concern here as a Spurs fan on the window. Do you think we get any deals over the line? And if so, who? I'm praying we swoop for Simmons, but unlikely. Stop praying for players that don't want to play for us, Dan. He wants to go to Chelsea. Got to get over this, mate. Just think a little bit more realistic. I released Tottenham early last night on Patreon. We had to pre-record it last night before the cup games. I completely forgot West Ham were playing last night, so we actually put it straight out. And if you are a patron, I highly recommend listening to what I speak about on there in terms of Tottenham transfers and not panicking. Like, the worst thing we can do. So there were a few people linking us with Paquetá yesterday, right? Another deal I can't see happening. But I think what Tottenham need is a more mobile 10. Yes, maybe someone more of the kind of Xavi Simmons ilk, although I'm not hugely high on him. I've spoken about this a few times. Probably proves me wrong the second he gets a blue shirt on, I'm sure. But we need a more mobile 10. Someone like Gibbs White, right? Or energetic, good carrier like Eze, right? We get someone like Paquetá. We're in a situation potentially next summer where we've got Paquetá, Maddison, Kulusevski. You've got 3 10s. None of them got any pace between any of them. Right. Don't make the mistake and get something for the sake of it. If Tottenham need to play with a energetic 10 that's going to help us a lot more off the ball, like a Pap Sarr at the moment, it's fine. What we clearly need is something else, Dan, right? Because we don't have enough depth. So I don't mind if Tottenham kind of sidetrack and look at the player I mentioned, and he's not been linked to Tottenham at all. He's something like Conor Gallagher, even if it's just on loan for now because you can't get what you want. Don't panic and buy shit, okay? It's better not to bother. It's the Manchester United problem. We'll put the plot, and I'm not saying United are doing it now, but they have done it historically. Oh, we've got a big problem in midfield. Let's buy Casemiro. Casemiro is great for 6 months. Oh shit, now we've got two problems because we've got that problem and we've still got that problem over there. Tottenham can't do that, mustn't do that. So it's not helping at the moment that the desperation of the fan base is, we've got to get a 10, got to get a 10. I agree, we absolutely need one, and we need more than just a 10, by the way. But don't spend 70 million on something that's not the right profile or the right fit. I don't want Tottenham to cock it up. So if Tottenham have to make a decision, go, right, okay, we're going to do this. This is short term. Or you get Gallagher and you go, right, him and Sarr are going to rotate as like pressing 10s for this year, as an example. I'm not saying we're going to get Gallagher. Then absolutely fine. And you can use him as a midfielder next year and then target another 10 when that's available next year, when maybe we ain't competing with Arsenal, Chelsea, etc., etc. Because Tottenham aren't going to win that battle. Tottenham shouldn't be getting involved in those battles yet. As much as you want us to, right, be sensible about it. They'll offer bigger wages, more chance of winning the league, Champions League, etc., etc. We have to operate differently. Lawrence says, morning, James. UCL draw tomorrow. We all know who you don't want to draw away. Which European away days would you like to do this year in a dream scenario? Well, the one I wanted was Celtic, so now I've got to go to Kazakhstan instead, Lauren. I can say categorically now, I've looked where it is on a map, and I'm not going to Kazakhstan. We already joked about it in the house last night, and the wife looked at me like I was mad. I don't know why, because she already knows that I am. Away days, I'd like... I'm not so fussed about Champions League because you know you're going to get some tough ones. You know you're going to get some games that you should win. I don't really want Tottenham to have the long journeys. Mind you, Paphos sounds like quite a bit of fun, potentially. PSG away, it's probably the one I want. It's probably the biggest away one I've not done from the big European ones. So I think PSG or the opportunity to go back to the Bernabeu, because last time I went was 2011. It's obviously been redone since then. So PSG or Real Madrid away is probably what I'm looking for. Mike FPL says, morning, James. Want to swap Saka and Palmer to bring in Salah and a 6.5. Would you go Sarr or Kudus, or another recommendation? Sarr all day, mate. Kudus, how many times do I have to repeat myself? He doesn't look like scoring. Please, someone hell at me at the moment that he looks like scoring. Listen, if he's going to like average an assist every game, great. He's not going to play Burnley every week, I don't think. So, yeah, Mohamed Kudus is not even an option for me, personally. And this, I hope he tears it up and is great. But I would rather, to go back to points on Tottenham questions, and I said this again yesterday, if Tottenham don't make any additions this week, then next week we can sit here and we can go, Brennan Johnson is a great option. From the 6.5s, it's Sarr. Tag says, can you explain why Asian teams are allowed to play in European competitions? So I presume this is in relation to Kairat, which we looked at it. I think it's like east of Afghanistan. Like, it's so far. Ultimately, Kazakhstan play under UEFA Confederation umbrella, so their international team plays in UEFA competition. Therefore, their club sides will fall under the same remit. It's as simple as that, right? It's the same way Auckland, who played in the Club World Cup, aren't even the best team in Auckland, right? The best team in Auckland has to play under the Asian Confederation banner because Australia play competitively in the Asian Confederation tournaments. James Brenner says, hi, James. How big an issue do you think Bruno is for Amorim's system? Clearly a fantastic player, but feels like you need a midfielder who can dictate play and sweep everything defensively to help him. So Bruno playing central midfield is fine, and the more his career progresses, the more likely he is just to completely end up playing that position, right? So concerns I've had with Bruno in the past have been that it's kind of badly explained, but he goes to bat for himself. And I haven't seen this for a while. And I think he goes to bat for himself because he doesn't have enough trust in many of his teammates, right, in terms of their ability. So he kind of overpresses, but it causes the team more problems, right, if he doesn't make it in the press because he steps out. Now, he's got better quality around him now, so I don't think that'd be so much of an issue. I think he's obviously more experienced now. He obviously cares a lot about the football club. I think that's fairly obvious. So, can he play a central midfield role? Yeah, absolutely. Look, I've seen players who, I'll give you an example. He became one of the best central midfielders of this century, mate, Luka Modric. I watched him play pretty much left side of midfield for Tottenham for well over a year. I never thought he would be able to play central midfield, mate. I just thought he'd get completely dominated in there. And as soon as we saw it, it's like, oh yeah, he's never not playing there again. So I think Bruno will be fine in central midfield. Yes, it needs a more defensive-minded player next to him. That's normal. Like United set up for a little while on Sunday with Fernandes and Mount as the two, they call them eights, if you will. And it didn't like that. I thought, oh, that's in trouble here. But it also shows perhaps a little bit more increased bravery from Amorim in terms of intent to trying to win football matches. I think Bruno Fernandes playing as the central midfielder for Manchester United is fine. Liam H says, how do you see Dragishin fitting into the Spurs squad, especially if we sign another centre-back? Will he be happy enough? I don't anticipate Tottenham buying another centre-back. I think the club wants to let Luka Vuskovic go on loan so they can kind of give him guaranteed game time because he's so highly rated that he shouldn't just be sitting on the bench, and quite frankly, he's not going to play a lot as it stands. He would kind of be fourth, arguably fifth choice at the moment. When Dragishin's back, that maybe goes down a level. Where does Dragishin fit in? All for fifth choice, mate. Quite honestly, there's no need for Tottenham to obviously rush him back. He's not a player that I'm hugely high on. I've spoken on that in the past. Wish him very well with his recovery. He did okay for us over the Christmas period when we were absolutely decimated, but ultimately I don't think he's good enough. I hope he makes a full recovery, but I would see him as full for fifth choice centre-back. I think for clarity, I think Danso is better than him. Mike FPL says, have any FPL players recognise you on jury service? Not yet. Ian from Melbourne says, hello, James. Or if someone else haven't said it, Ian from Melbourne says, hello, James. What are your memories of the one season with Popescu and Dumitrescu at Tottenham up the Shrimpers? So, Ely came in the summer of 94 after Romania had an incredible World Cup. Got to the quarterfinals and really should have got to the semi-finals. Lost on penalties to Sweden. And Dumitrescu was a standout performer in that team. Obviously, that's great Georgi Hagi, but Eli Dumitrescu was a standout performer in that team. He scored, it might have even scored twice against Argentina in the last 16. Certainly scored once. Anyway, we bought him and it was like, wow, that's a big signing. And then we bought Klinsmann a couple of weeks later. So then it was like, for most neutrals, like forgotten. He was part of the famous five attackers. But unfortunately, once Jerry Francis took over, that was it. The famous five was gone. It was famous five in this 4-1-5 system we was basically playing, which actually many teams kind of go 3-2-5 in possession now. Maybe Ozzy was ahead of his time. There was no room for Dumitrescu. And Popescu originally, I think, had been bought to play sweeper for us. Bought a little bit late, I think just after the season started. Played in central midfield primarily with David Howes that season. I like Jika, very talented player. I actually got his name. It was the first name I ever got on my shirt, was Georgi Popescu, because he played the position that I played when I was a kid. He pulled out of a tackle at Leeds in the FA Cup semi-final against Everton, and yeah, that was, can't be doing that. So he moved on fairly quickly. So Dumitrescu, I think he had a loan at West Ham and then moved on afterwards. Popescu actually went to Barcelona. I can't recall him playing for Barcelona though, but I know that's where he went. R says, good morning. Score prediction for Liverpool Arsenal. That would be spoiling Clash to Correspondence, wouldn't it? I'll tell you there's a surprise prediction on now. Fandy Maggi says, hello mate. JP says, sold Verts to Johnson. Thoughts? Should have waited a week. I'm going to tell you truthfully, like, you can't reverse it, but if Tottenham end this week with a new number 10 and a new left winger, all right. If Tottenham don't, then yes, fine, mate. FPL Maggot says, good morning, James. Have a lovely day. Just hope you haven't shit the bed. No. I mean, normally when I play FPL, but not like literally. Charlie Toast says, hi James, are the rumours about Nuno's future enough to put you off bringing in Chris Wood? Oh, that's intriguing. No, it wouldn't, but it probably wouldn't rush to make decisions to the weekend, just purely on the basis. I think, look, there'll be some form of meeting this week. I said this yesterday, where there's going to be a meeting this week, surely, with Marinakis, Nuno, and Edu, and they're either going to shake hands on it and agree to at least work together, or they're going to butt heads and there's going to be a change. So there has to be a chance. I'd not considered this as a really interesting question. There has to be a chance that someone else comes over and just prefers a profile forward like Igor Jesus or Callum Owendo can play that position rather than Wood. There has to be a possibility. But I wouldn't fret about it, but I probably wouldn't be rushing to bring him in. That's a good question. Anish says, I have Bruno and Wood. Who to captain? And Chris Wood is a strong candidate as it stands, just purely on... I mean, to tell you, West Ham can't deal with crosses, so... I mean, that in itself makes Wood appealing, doesn't it? I'd be very tempted to go Chris Wood if I owned, yeah. I wouldn't break my team to bring him in and captain him, by the way. I do think captaincy is absolutely wide open this week. So if anyone's got a strong preference for anything this week, you're probably unlikely to get a strong no from me, because I think it is wide open this week. Of those two, yeah, I think just under current circumstances, as long as Nuno's still in charge, yeah, I'd probably go Wood. Jerry Darmayu says, hello, Jimbo. With how good Spurs looked first two under Frank, how do you compare it to Poch and Angie's starts as Spurs manager? Both had good starts, right? I mean, under Ange, we actually drew the first game at Brentford, didn't we? Then we beat Manchester United in 2. So very positive. That was obviously, it was a dramatic change in playing style. Ange's first 2 was good. The result at West Ham on the opening day was good, considering we played the majority of the game with 10 men. We obviously won it in injury time through Eric Dyer's goal. We didn't even know how to say his name at the time. That's how recently Tottenham had bought him. So that was quite euphoric. You get a 95th minute winner at West Ham, yeah, you're going to go a bit mental. And then we demolished QPR 4-0 in the second game. It went south from there quickly, though. And I've stressed on that Tottenham podcast as well, a lot of calm about Tottenham and not getting too carried away with Saturday, because I think City were not good. I think that needs real clarity. So Saturday felt nowhere near as euphoric for me as the 4-0 victory last year. It felt like a good professional job, well done. Very pleased with that. It's not to necessarily downplay the victory at all. I think people have to be very careful not to get carried away, because that City is going to continue to be vulnerable as it stands. But I'm going to bring Rodri back into that. It's obviously going to make a big difference. I speak a lot on that Tottenham podcast about Pep and City stylistically and concerns I have moving forward. So I'm very calm at the moment, Jerry. I don't almost think it's not worth comparing. Like, all three of them have made good starts. As I said, Pochettino then went south. It was bad for a couple of months till pretty much he got Kane in the team. And Tottenham finally began to press in sort of November time. It took ages. And Ange obviously was great for 10 games. Then the team fell apart. So, yeah, early days. Good morning, Damien. Colin Johnson says, morning, mate. Thanks for great content. Very Deven, because assuming this is meant to be Van Deven, worth over Porro for cash saving. The problem with Mickey that you have to consider a little bit is quick turnarounds once the Champions League starts. Now, at the moment, it's fine. It's one game a week at the moment. Tottenham will be very, very cautious with him. I would suggest the way Tottenham are now playing should help him in terms of the hamstring issues, because although you will have seen him press and be very aggressive going forward at the weekend, much under Ange was obviously the relying on him to recover over the top. That's less of a thing where he's going to have to do quite so often. So hopefully that will help and he can build up some strength in the muscles, etc. But Tottenham need to take care of him. That has to be a caution, right? We haven't got through these 2 seasons with Mickey van der Ven not having injury issues, right? It's kind of been a regular thing. So bear that in mind. I think Pedro's a pretty good pickup. And I, generally speaking, would probably pay the extra. I wouldn't stress to get a Tottenham defender, by the way, if you haven't got one. But I think where available, yeah, I would pay the extra. Is Van der Ven fine as a 4.5? I mean, looking around at the moment, it's probably as good as any you can pick up. Have a look at your rotation, though, if you're thinking longer term. Might become potentially an issue for you. Colin Stiffer says, hi, James, no question. Thanks for the content. Hope you have a good day. Thank you, too. Daniel Mackey says, with Palmer and Saka both possibly out the international break, any possible surprise England call-ups? Not based on what we've seen from Thomas Tuchel so far. No. Don't think we're going to suddenly see Rio Ngomoma and Max Doman suddenly hitting the squad. We joked about this with Dan and Adam after the podcast yesterday. Surprise call-ups. No, I think from what we've seen of Tuchel so far, I don't think we should expect anything like that. James Wright says, morning, James. What's for breakfast? The sausage roll and a caramel latte from Greg's on the way here. That'll be it till lunch, mate. Fancy Fluker says, morning, James. I have 8 Nori, Palmer, Saka and Fulkrug. Shall I free hit and sort out after international break or take hits? Fulkrug, as I said, leave. Saka needs dealing with, I think. That's primary because the fixtures for Arsenal in the next few weeks are pretty shite anyway. So I think deal with that. Palmer could be back for 4 if he's not available this week. 8 Nori, we need the prognosis. It's ankle problem. I think that should probably be left till Friday, and Pep will give you the honest answer on that. Fulkrug, as I said, it could just walk into Muniz if you wait a week. So your priority order there is Saka. Then it's dependent in terms of information of others. Information is important. If you've got Saka and 8 Nori are both going to be out for a while, then for me, it's perfectly justifiable to take a -4 under that circumstance, mate. Jerry W says, if you can only pick one between João Pedro and Wood, who will it be and why? Fulham looked open against Man United last game, and West Ham been in total shambles right now. Fulham are normally quite strong defensively, and there might have been a consequence early in the game of the system change. So, I mean, I'm assuming the way you've asked that question, Jerry, you are lacing it just for this one weekend, in which case my choice is Wood. JP says, my Gakpo and Ekiteke have been doing wonders, but looking to get rid of Wirtz and Watkins/Bruno soon for Salah when fixtures improve. Okay, thanks for sharing. Damien says, send aside Chalobah or Lacroix as a Ray and 8 Nori replacement for 5 weeks. It wouldn't be Senasai, I can tell you that. So I think he's second for DEFCONs from the first 2 games, which Van Dijk is miles ahead, by the way. But we know Bournemouth are trying to get another centre-back in before the window closes, and I think it just instantly puts Senasai back under threat. So I certainly wouldn't be buying Senasai this week. It might be another one. Next week looks absolutely fine. So I'd rule him out at the moment. There was a line in a report in The Athletic on Chelsea, either yesterday or the day before, that said Chelsea do not intend to buy another centre-back before the window closes. But it's Chelsea, and I'd be very suspicious about that. I think Lacroix is perfectly fine, mate. Now, he's 0... Wait, it's not. Him and Chalobah are both 5, aren't they? Senasai 4.5. Lacroix is absolutely by a mile the safest one to get there, mate. And he'll be decent on DEFCONs, and Palace are quite strong defensively. So not against that at all. Not against that at all. Louis Leddy says, morning, James. Do you see any chance if Isak stays that will become a good asset again for this season? Feels like the relationship is far too broken. Yeah, of course there's a possibility. He's too good a player, mate. So, yeah, can they kiss and make up? Yeah, of course they can. So, I mean, to sit and say, is there a chance that Isak could be a good asset again this season? I mean, obviously, of course he could be, mate. He won't be rushing it. Oh, Isak's playing for Newcastle next week. No. We need to see something visually, right? Bad Company says, morning, James. If you could pick one retired Premier League legend at their peak to put in your FPL team this season, who would it be? Bale. Good answer, no? James Brennan says, hi, James. Will Spence be first choice going forward, or best just to get Romero? Already have Porro. Cheers. So, at the moment, Jed would deserve to keep hold of the shirt. But quite obviously here, you've got real strong competition with Destiny Udogie. Even if he remained first choice, James, Tottenham are in the Champions League. So there's going to be rotation in that position, particularly, right? Spence can obviously cover for Porro. Might be 1 or 2 games Porro misses out. Romero will play every game that he's available. A little bit, it would be like Van Dijk. When he's available, he's just going to play every game. So There's your answer, mate. Perlo's Pen says, hi James, nice and early, thinking of wildcard due to Palmer, Strand Larson, 8 Norrie, Rutter. Do you think Haaland and Salah teams are viable? Are they viable? Yes. Yes, of course they're viable. There isn't a can't play. Yeah, hashtag, you know what it is. But I prefer one or the other, clearly. Now, the interesting facet to this, and this is something I have to consider at the moment, is obviously I own neither. And if Palmer and Saka are unavailable for a while, you have to start looking at it and thinking, well, what am I doing with this money here, right? It's only going to increase the popularity. So I have to look at a potential path to Haaland for 6. For me, not so fussed about. I know that if I go Salah, I've got to go to Haaland in 6. That's how I feel. To do the both, I think personally is too much. Personally, particularly even more so once you get kind of around abouts to 9, and it's like you'll want Palmer and Saka back. Then I think there probably has to be a sacrifice. When you start, you're going to look at it and start going, oh yeah, I might want Gyökeres, I might want Cucurella and Gabriel. Right, it starts getting tough. So I don't like the setup with both. I think there are nice chains where you can go one or the other. I probably wish in hindsight that I'd just set up with Salah to start. I wouldn't say regret, but the way it's unfolded, that probably would have been better for me, despite him being relatively quiet so far. Just because of the Palmer Saka issues. Can't foresee that sort of thing happening. So, yeah, I need to look at a path potentially get to Haaland 6. Instinct is I won't bother, by the way. I'll probably just take it on. Because I think it will cost me too many transfers and I'm going to need to fix other things. In terms of your problems there, my friend, I think like none that they might all be not problems. We could be sitting here this time next week where those that you're concerned about injuries are all fit. So Rutter, we really do think it was a minor problem, kept him out the Everton game and it just didn't take a risk. Aitner, we don't know prognosis. Palmer, at this point, we're even saying maybe a chance for Saturday. Strand Larson could still be a Wolves player or is Newcastle's number 9 this time next week. Brave. Information is way more important. And also, as kind of discussed yesterday, I don't like wildcards this week. If you've activated, it's fine. Crack on. You'll have your reasons. But the information to learn in terms of, I think these next few days of the transfer window are going to be mental. And I normally sit here and go, it'll underwhelm. I don't think this one is. There's too many clubs who've got too much business to do. And the transfer window closes Monday. I would much rather you just got through this week. And if you want to take a -4 because you've got 2 injured players and you go, right, I'm going to be aggressive for this week, do it. Go aggressive on teams that have got good fixtures this week. Punt, Thiago's, Chris Woods, whatever. Right? Manchester United players, great examples, right? In your scenario there where you've got Palmer and Rutter, right? You could potentially be going Cunha, Bumo, -4 this week, wildcard next week. It's fine. Fantasy Fluker says, and Brighton midfielder Jorginho. Can't remember what that's in relation to. Daniel Mackey says, Potter or Nuno, who gets sacked first? Depends what happens in that meeting with Forest this week. Simple as that, Daniel. So I'm not going to be in that room. I can't know if they're going to get on with each other or they're not going to get on with each other. If they get on with each other, then it'll be Potter. I can't see it working now, man. The first thing, I was recording with Dan and Adam last night for COTC. And when I finished and I saw the West Ham team, I literally went, oh, wow. And I went, oh, wow, because when I saw the team, I went, well, you've got to win tonight. Can't pick a team that strong. And then I looked at the Wolves and went, West Ham got to win tonight. It was worse. Been better off putting kids out. Jerry Dharma Hughes says, with Gordon out for 3 games, what are your thoughts on Barnes as a pick for 3 to 5? Leeds, Wolves, Bournemouth screams goals with how aggressive Leeds and Bournemouth play at their home. So, yeah, perfectly reasonable. The warning I gave yesterday about Barnes and Elanga was you can't really think beyond 5 at this moment. So, yeah, if you're thinking for the next 3 specifically, so you person who asked earlier in the stream about wildcard in 6, yeah, the first team I'd be looking at is Newcastle. The caution is they're a little bit of unknown in the sense, how busy are they going to be? Now, I don't think enough to take Barnes or Elanga out the team over the next 3. So if you want to punt either of them 2 specifically for that 3, fine. But I do think you may find you need an exit plan afterwards, particularly if you go Barnes. Rami says, I love your general football talk. Do you have a football game of all time? Mine will have to be Germany versus Italy World Cup 2006. Proper chess match of a game. Did I ever tell you, mate, about this one time? I went to this place called Amsterdam. Beautiful, beautiful city, my friend. Beautiful, beautiful. And a few weeks before that, I also went to Manchester, a place where I never had any form of success whatsoever. So, yeah, look, those two football matches were outrageous. And I'm not even just saying that from a Tottenham perspective. Those football matches against Man City and Ajax in the Champions League in 2019 were carnage. Those second legs were carnage. So, yeah, I'm going to say that. A favourite as a neutral. A lot of us hark back to the Liverpool-Newcastle 96. I really liked the Chelsea-Man City 4-4 from a few years ago. The United City 4-3, 2010. Another great one. Dramatic, and it was City just kind of coming into the money and stuff and really being a bit more than the noisy neighbour at that stage. I'll tell you the game I'm really loving as well, because you picked a low-scoring one. I'll tell you two absolutely brilliant football matches. The Arsenal-Man United 99 FA Cup semi-final replay at Villa Park was probably the highest level football match I saw from last century. And I would say the best Premier League game actually I've probably seen, maybe arguably ever, in terms of enjoyment and matched with quality as well, was City, when City beat Liverpool 2-1 at the Etihad, which I'm pretty sure was the year Liverpool finished second on 97 points. Leroy Sané got the winner. Aguero opened the scoring. I'll say Firmino equalised. That was an incredible game, even though it wasn't like a high scoring game. That was top level stuff. I'm going to say that City Liverpool. But Ajax, baby. FPL Black Box is in. Blimey, you're up early, James. Is it Az or is it Andy? Is it? It's got to be my buddy Az, isn't it? I know Az is religiously here. I hope you're well, buddy. Dragon Josiowski says Haaland seems the best captain in game week 6 to 7. For those with Mo, you should plan to shift Mo to Haaland in 6 and come back in 8. Or is it worth trying to squeeze them both in for 2 weeks? Cheers. No, I'm going to kind of skip that, Dragon, because I've kind of just covered it sort of for someone else in terms of my feelings on that. So there's plenty of different ways to play the game, mate. I'm not going to sit here and say you can't have Haaland and Salah. Man, play it your way, innit? Sidant says, what are your thoughts on transfer rumours on Bruno, 150 million? And will this resolve United missing puzzle by bringing in Baleba? Should Ruben discard his free at the back philosophy as Silva was able to outweigh Manchester United? Yeah, as I said yesterday, I don't like the way Fulham set up at the weekend, actually. Bruno's not leaving. Forget that. I mean, if United get a bid for 150 million, right, we're going to have to look at each other and go, what do you want to do? But I feel like that conversation's already happened with Bruno, and he decided that he wanted to stay, right? Good luck to him. You do look at it sometimes and think, hang on a minute here. So, if United went, hypothetically, 4-2-3-1, right? Dorgu, Dalot, fullbacks. You need a new goalkeeper here, admittedly. I don't know, Delit and Euro, whatever combination you want. In front of that, you could have, I mean, I'd arguably say like Mainu and Fernandes. You can find a free behind Sesko of Diallo, Bumo, and Cunha, and you're going, hang on, something's not right here. This team looks really good. It does. If you write down a Manchester United team in the back four, you do go, yeah, I like that. I saw someone do that the other day. Forgive me, I can't remember who it was. But you do think, yeah. But he won't. He's not going to do that. Lewis Leddy says, with Haaland receiving a price rise, do you think with Salah too at such a high price, they should both be capped at their original price? No, what's this capping nonsense? No, mate, no. Imagine that. You just went, oh, well, he'd never increase in price. Don't have to rush to doing it. It's part of the gamble of the game, mate. Cloudy Sky Fantasy Football Show says, how do mate? Hope all is well. Should some stats be changed depending on the outcome? For example, Bumo was initially given as big chance created, then taken away only when the goal was confirmed as an own goal 10 minutes later. I mean, for me, that's him creating a big chance. If he doesn't create that big chance for Euro, the goal doesn't happen, right? So the fact that he takes a deflection, becomes an own goal, shouldn't mean that he doesn't still stand as a big chance created. I don't agree with that, Ian. Ben Thomas says, thoughts on Bowen to Evan Nilsson. Bowen's fixtures are average to good, but he's underperforming. Swallow to price falls until I can afford it. So look, there has to be genuine, real concern about West Ham at the moment, but slow. So Sunderland, he nearly scored in the first half. Against Chelsea, it was his block shot that then rebounded to Fulkrug and scored. And last night, he put in an absolutely brilliant cross for Lucas Paquetá's goal at Molineux. So he's been close in all three. So if we compare that against someone who might be flavour at the moment, like Kudus, I'm sitting again, Kudus never looks like scoring as it stands. Listen, if West Ham do anything, Jared Bowen will do well. Do they go backs to the wall at the weekend, let Forest come onto them and sneak a 1-0, 2-0 victory? Would you be that stunned? Well, I tell you what I do know is if West Ham manage that, there's a high probability that Jared Bowen will be involved. He's still unquestionably the talisman in that team. I am in no panic to move that on whatsoever because I know the capability of him, the individual. And sometimes if you've got an individual, even from a shit team, that can be really good in fantasy. So I'm under no duress to be moving that whatsoever at this moment in time. Yes, I'm looking at it going, okay, there's other, but are there other forwards at that value that I'm desperate to go to? You've picked another player who, to me, also hasn't like scoring in 2 games. What clear effort has Evan Nilsson had in the 2 games so far? You make a case Evan Nilsson's been more quiet than Bowen so far, actually. Is Evan Nilsson's fixture that much better than Bowen's this weekend? Questionable. I'm sitting things like this at the moment would be sitting still. It's like, and I totally get it, Ben, because the fear hits all of us a little bit on the price drops. Okay. I spoke about this again on the podcast yesterday. The best thing we can do at the moment, because a lot of us are low scoring, right? A lot of us. The best thing most of us can do at the moment is not look at them price sites. If you've got a player that is injured, like Saka, and you know that you're going to want to sell, yeah, you want to be monitoring it. Otherwise, don't look at it because it's going to cause anxiety. At the moment, I'm not looking at it. Cunha, Bumo, or Sarr for Palmer. I haven't decided. There's an influence from me on, as I said, I already own Fernandez. If I didn't, I probably would go Cunha. Sarr, I think, is going to be the most likely one for me if I move. I'm going to have to wrap this up in 10 minutes, guys. I cannot go any later than 9 o'clock, I'm afraid. So wherever I'm at 9 o'clock, that's where I'll be ending. Myth NUFC says, hi, James. Best 3 forwards on a wild card, no ceiling on money. Thanks. On a wild card, best 3 forwards. Watkins, definitely. I don't care. 5 fixtures for me. I own him. He's going absolutely nowhere. Watkins would be first one in for me. I think I would go Haaland at the moment. I think if I was wildcarding now, it's one of 2 ways to do it. It's either set to go Haaland in 6 from Salah or just get him in. So, okay, let's do it the other way. Let's assume we're going to set for him. So if we want to forward just for 3 weeks, let's give you a name if we can. A forward just for 3 weeks. This is where my 3-week rolling difficulty tracker on my planner, which you can access via Basic Plus tier, comes in really handy because I have a rolling 3 and 5 week difficulty tracker. So teams I got top for the next 3. Newcastle I've got top, but there isn't a forward to pick. Then it's Villa, Watkins. Then it's Fulham, but I wouldn't go either this week. In terms of Munez, Jimenez, we need the information. Then it's Wolves. Don't think you'd go Strand Larson at this moment. And it's Sunderland, wouldn't bother. I would maybe chance Ekiteke. on the thinking that even if Isak went there, it might take a little bit of time to integrate. So I think Watkins, Ekiteke, and I would arguably still go João Pedro. And I'd be setting that up to switch one. You judge it that way, and then one of Ekiteke or João Pedro up to Haaland in 6. That's probably how I'd look at it. Klopp's downfall. No, sorry, I've missed one. Charles Allsbrook says, morning, James. Do you think the DEFCON points are a bit of a red herring? Hard to really target them and instead just should be seen as bonus point you sometimes randomly get. I'm going to skip that, Charles. Thank you. It's a good question, but I literally spoke about it right at the end of yesterday's podcast. It's a really easy one to find, but in essence, yes. Klopp's downfall says, are Strand, Larson, Bowen, Nico Williams, Rogers, Sells or Roll? They're all rolls as far as I'm concerned. Sausage rolls. No, honestly, they're all okay at the minute, mate. They're all okay. No threat. I mean, I'm not quite sure why I'd be binning Nico Williams at this stage. Is there an injury issue I don't know about or something? I wouldn't be concerned about that. Club Racer says, great to be live with you for once. Thanks for the content. You're very welcome, mate. Rhino says, morning, pal. Is Piccadilly to Euston your favourite train line? Piccadilly, as in, Manchester Piccadilly. No. Because Avanti are a bunch of... Yeah, I can't say it. Favourite one. I like the lineup to Leeds, actually, to be honest. I think, Ed, I should say him. But the St Pancras, they're not the best trains. But I think like that route up to Sheffield, Leeds always feels, Nottingham, Leicester, all that route all feels a bit quicker. So I'd say that. Like Leicester is really easy to get to from London. Really easy. Whereas it normally feels like nearly every away game in this country feels like it's 2 hours on a train for me. I am fortunate living in London. I do recognise this. So we have to get to the central of London, by the way. Other than like your Newcastle's is obviously longer. Burnley, another one. Yeah, I'm probably going to say that route, the St Pancras one to Leeds way. I'm going to go with that one, Ed. Aced Ventura says, Douglas Luiz in at 5 minutes. Yeah, that eyebrow raiser, actually. Do you think he'll be a starter? Who's spotting the team can he take? Sangari question. Wondering if he will take set pieces like maybe even pens there, but I guess it's a wait and see. Yeah, exactly that. You can't buy now. You need to see where that lines up. I understand West Ham have an interest in Sangari. And I think Forest are probably going to do some more business because when don't they? Before the window shuts. So it's a wait and see. But yeah, Douglas Luiz at 5 million has to grab attention. So, yep, certainly one for the watch list. Rajesh Kumar says, I've got 0 in the bank and 1 free transfer. What should I do with Palmer, Fulkrug and Verbruggen? Was thinking about Verbruggen to Keller, but I'm not sure if a goalkeeper transfer is worth it. This is head in hands moment for the audio listeners. Sorry. It's just not worth it, mate. What did we pick Verbruggen for? Was it like a bench boost at the start? Is that what that is? All right. 1, Brighton are a better team than Brentford. Might not match it defense. Brighton are better than Brentford. We're thinking about making a sideways move here for what a different 4.5 keeper. When Brentford have, and I know they've just kept a clean sheet against Villa, absolutely dog home games. Are you just looking at this week and going, Verbruggen's got City and Keller has got Sunderland? I like that. Don't bother, mate. Goalkeeper returns are so random. Please leave that be and don't even think about it. If you're in a situation where an amazing 4.5 emerges or an amazing 4.0, or you want to restructure your team and get something in like a Sanchez or Martinez in time because it's more consistent, fine. Don't be pissing about with 4.5 goalkeepers unless they're injured. Daniel Mackey says, Arsenal results v City Liverpool last season were 3 times Desmond Tutu and 1 5-1 win. Are we overthinking starting attackers in that game on Sunday? I can't speak for you, Daniel, in terms of what you're thinking. What do you mean overthinking? As in what? Resting these players, not playing them? Why wouldn't you play them? Just thinking about this logically, right? Liverpool game at Anfield. nothing else needs to be said, right? How often do Liverpool not score at Anfield? I've probably put the mockers on it. It'll probably now be Sunday. But realistically, what's an average for Liverpool at Anfield? Two and a half goals per game? Right, as you said, it was 2-2 last year. I mean, it was 1-1 the year before, right? Okay, fine. I've got Gakpo and Wirtz. Wouldn't go through my mind. Even as shit as Wirtz has been from a fancy perspective so far, wouldn't go through my mind not to start him this week. If I had Arsenal attackers probably a bit different. If I'd got Gyökeres, would have been thinking of benching him this week. What I've seen from Liverpool so far, no chance. So who is it that's overthinking that, Daniel? I don't know if anybody is. If they are, I'll have a word. Callum says, very impressed with how Frank has turned Tottenham into a structured team in just the one pre-season. Do you think his tactical adaptability will help him manage Premier League, Champions League, or can you still see struggles? Yeah, listen, in terms of, I think we kind of knew this from the PSG game already before the City game, that Mr. Adaptable, as I was already calling him, Thomas Frank, is almost a great strength. That he is clearly very, very good at trying to expose weaknesses in an opponent. Clearly. Doesn't matter how good he might be, though. Ultimately, Tottenham's squad isn't big enough. It is big enough. He hasn't got enough depth quality, let's say, right? So if you looked, and this is harsh reality. Arsenal's second team, okay, the second 11 would, at minimum, give Tottenham a really tough game. At minimum, okay, and I'm going to lean on the side of caution with what I'm saying now, okay. Tottenham's second team, if it rots up at the Emirates, would get absolutely destroyed. Okay, now I realise I'm comparing to one of the title challengers here, so that might be a little bit unfair. But ultimately, no matter how good he may or may not be tactically, and it's still very early, remember, Ange started brilliantly, the depth in the team is going to be a big issue once you start going Premier League and Champions League. It's fairly obvious, right? So it's not going to matter. Tottenham need improved quality depth. They have to sort that this week. I don't think it has to be the dream scenarios, as I said this earlier, but they do need to add some quality to the depth of that squad, and ideally at least one good attacker of some form that can be a regular starter this week. Nixie713, you got the last one, says, does Strand Larsen start at the weekend? You don't get the last one because I answered that earlier on. It depends where he's playing, but at the moment we would have to assume yes. For those I've not got to, apologies, I have to run. I'm due in court, not because I've committed a crime, but because I'm on jury service. If I've not got to your question, please drop me a tag on Twitter or Blue Sky at Planet FPL Pod, and I will happily answer your question at some point later today when I've got a little bit of time. Clash of Correspondence available for you tomorrow. Liverpool versus Arsenal with Dan Lord and Adam Pritchard. For our patrons, that will be available for you later today. That includes even for free members. So if you can't wait for tomorrow, sign up as a free member on Patreon. You can listen to that probably late afternoon, early evening. That'll be available for you. David Hunt will be back with me for the weekender on Friday. We'll be discussing the fallout from the Carabao Cup games, any learnings from that. Obviously, Champions League draw will be known at that point as well. I don't know if we're going to get the schedule with the fixtures, but it'll be plenty to discuss, new transfers, etc. Some thoughts for the weekend in terms of Palmer Saka replacements. Once we've got, hopefully, more information on Friday morning. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Do it because you want to support the show or because you would like access to the additional content. But it just leaves me to say, for those on the audio, smash a 5-star review. It goes a really long way. For those of you on YouTube, smash a like. Hit the sub button, and for the benefit of those listening to the audio cue music, please match up.